What do you want to do with your life? How do you pursue your passion? Trust me when I tell you, you don't want to be a professional magician. You think you do, but you really don't. It's far more freeing to be an amateur. You can pursue magic just because it's a passion. You don't have to worry about whether something is practical or commercial, only if it's fun and you love it. In fact, the word amateur comes from an old Latin word meaning for the love of it. Jack Parker was just such a magician who eschewed the idea of pursuing magic as a profession and instead embraced the life of an inspired amateur or hobbyist. And in doing so, he created magic and made friends who have helped his magic escape the shackles of time and bequeath the gift of immortality, a book of his original creations. But perhaps like me, you were less familiar with the name Jack Parker. He was a man with a job, a family, but pursued magic passionately on the side, and ended up bonding with notable friends like Andy Gladwin and Thomas Blomberg. As Andy Gladwin points out in the introduction to this book, magic gave them a much-needed distraction from their everyday occupations. Unfortunately, tragedy struck in the form of cancer, and Jack Parker was taken from us far too early, around the age of 36. But he left behind a legacy of his magic written by Andy Gladwin and put into print by Vanishing Inc. This book is the second half of a set of books that were started by Andy Gladwin before Jack Parker's passing in 2007. The first book was Jack Parker's 52 Memories, which has been republished recently in a retrospective edition to match the new book's format. More on that in a second. The author points out that it was precisely this separation of career and passion that allowed and inspired Jack to create so much great magic. So let's talk about the physical attributes of the book for a second. It is approximately 250 pages. It's a hardcover book in a very square format. I believe I understand this correctly, that the books that were written by Andy Gladwin are in this square format. You have Blomberg Laboratories, Pure Imagination, 52 Memories, and now 52 Explorations. The book is illustrated by the venerable Tony Dunn, and I absolutely loved these drawings. They're just the right size and number for the format of the book. And as kind of a really neat touch, the original book had a red format, so the illustrations were red-backed cards, and the new book has a blue format, so the cards are blue. It's just little touches like that that make it extra special. This book has extremely thick paper, and in fact, the very first time that I went to go flip a page, I thought I was grabbing 2 pages instead of the one that I was. The original 52 Memories book, the first of the 2-part series here of Jack Parker's magic, was on a thinner, glossier paper, more traditionally what you would see in a magic book. However, the new version of 52 Memories has the thicker paper, a bigger logo on the front, and more generally matches the overall ambiance and layout of the new 52 Explorations. So what about the writing style? I really liked this layout. At the beginning, the author gives any kind of special notes about the trick, maybe a story about how he uncovered it, or a way in which Jack used this material or presented it, or the first time that he shared it. There's always some sort of interesting note at the beginning. This is immediately followed by the effect as it should appear from the eyes of your audience, which puts you in the right frame of mind to learn this trick. There's a comprehensive list of the sleights used in the trick. If there's any setup, it will explain what that is and how you need to prepare. And by the way, a number of the tricks do use some sort of small setup at the beginning. And finally, you have a detailed description of the method. Andy is an extremely accomplished magical author, so you're in great hands to learn every detail that you need to be up and performing this material. In short, as a Vanishing Inc release, it'll come as no surprise to know that it oozes quality. But what about the contents? Who is this book for? To my way of thinking, this is for the inspired amateur, someone who is a little bit like Jack. People who like to fool lay audiences, but also want to fool their peers, magicians. With that in mind, what kind of skill set do you need to get the most from this book? Intermediate, starting at the scale of beyond beginner intermediate, all the way up to an advanced intermediate. The material isn't necessarily knuckle busting, but there are not that many tricks that are completely self-working, although there are a few. Each trick has a list of the sleights needed, And almost all of them are taught within the pages, so you can grow with this book. As an example, there are a lot of multiple lifts, doubles or triples, variants on different packet counts like Jordan counts or Elmsley counts. There's the occasional use of a half pass. Some tricks use the Erudite color change, which is one of the more simple variants of a color change. And there's significant work on Gary Ouellette's touch force, among other sleights. This is not comprehensive at all, but just to try to give you an idea of the types of sleights that you'll find within these pages. This is all stuff that an intermediate card worker has seen and likely used, so none of this is soul-crushing in its difficulty. Although none of the sleights are terribly difficult, I just think that you'll get a lot more from this if you're approaching this type of book with an established framework of knowledge of different sleights. There's a lot of technical jargon in the pages of this book, so if that's your thing, you're going to feel right at home. A lot of these creations originated or were published to an online group called The Second Deal, which gives you a little bit of an idea of the type of magician who might be most appreciative of this work. You don't have to be an expert, but the higher up you are on that experience ladder, the more and the faster you'll get material out of this book. So what about the material itself? There's quite a variety of material in this book, but you should know that it is all 100% cards. There are versions of classic effects like Travelers, Invisible Palm Aces, Triumphs, Cards to Box, Ace Assemblies, and a lot of other really interesting stuff. Almost all of this is intended for close-up audiences, although I'm sure there are plenty of ways that you could figure out to make it work for a slightly bigger audience. As previously mentioned, a lot of this material is designed to fool other magicians, but as Steve Beam pointed out, many times if you're fooling magicians, the lay audience comes along for free. Everything published in here seems eminently practical, and many of the tricks could be performed in a walk-around situation if that's your thing. While Jack uses a lot of traditional card magic sleights, there are also some original sleights and variations that take things in a very interesting direction. I feel like there's a theme in Jack's work of surprising changes. For example, color changing backs, or cards changing places with another card, or changing to a different card entirely. There are unusual or interesting displays of cards that lead to some very interesting magical moments. All in all, there's a good variety of material, something for every close-up cardition. Andy Gladwin did a great job of writing up this material and even shares a few pieces that Jack didn't specifically write up. That's right, there are a few pieces that Jack wanted Andy to figure out, and with the help of some other magic friends, Andy has done exactly that. Some of these tricks are being seen for the first time in print here in this book. So if you're looking for some offbeat or different thinking from someone who is just inspired to create in a passionate way, I think you'll find some interesting things in this book. Jack Parker absolutely loved magic, and this book is an inspiring look into what one person can do when they're dedicated to their passion. This book is a celebration of an amateur magician, someone who loved magic for its own sake, and who shared it freely and often. In fact, it was interesting to me to see how Jack Parker and his magic influenced a person like Andy Gladwin. When Jack was diagnosed with cancer, Andy dropped everything he was doing to write up the original book, 52 Memories, a collection of Jack Parker's magic. Jack wanted nothing more than to share his passion with others. And with a friend like Andy Gladwin at his side, he has done exactly that. Andy took the route of going full-time professional a few years after Jack's passing, and he has given us a gift by immortalizing the work of an amateur magician taken from us far too early. If that's not a lesson to think about what you're doing with your life and your passion, your magic, then I don't know what is. If you want to get more out of your magic routine, improve faster, and share more magic, be sure to check out this video. As always, my friends, I appreciate you watching, and until next time, keep reading.